All right. As successful entrepreneurs with massive success in real estate and other endeavors, how do you define success? Go ahead and start us off, Brewer. I'm going to start you off over there, Taco Hair. Let's go.
I actually watched this yesterday on a clip from Steve's podcast with Larry Yatch, and he said success is not an accomplishment, it's a feeling. And I think that really sunk in with me, and I thought a lot about that, right? So, and then when you think about it, if it's a feeling, where do our feelings come from? Our choices. So you can actually decide to feel successful. You can look at what you have and make a decision that you're halfway to where you want to be. You don't have the money you want. You wish you had a bigger house. You wish you were, driving a different car, or you can make a choice to look at what you have around you, be grateful for the blessings that we have, and just consider yourself, make the decision to feel successful. And I think there's an awful lot of truth to that. I think the way that we define success probably should vary from person to person. What Jimmy or Leon or RJ's considered successful, this may not match up with me, and that's okay. It doesn't make their definition wrong or mine not suitable. I think success is happiness. And, what makes each individual person happy may be different. But for me, it's having a balance between challenges that, I love solving problems. And that's what work, I think, does for me, is the opportunity to solve problems. And then traveling over the last 2 weeks made me realize how much I actually miss family when I'm home. And the ability to just spend time with the people I care about, for me, is how I define success.
You finished strong on that. Big starting out was just feeling that was an awful answer, but I'm glad that you went ahead and finished strong there. Appreciate All right, Leon, what about you? What defines success?
So success is defined differently for everyone, as Eric mentioned. I think the same thing about scale when it comes to business, and all too often, I think people come in talking about scale, and they lose what truly makes people successful. And in my opinion, it's more of a personal thing than it is for business. Although all of us are hard-charging entrepreneurs and want to continue to grow and be better, ultimately, I think all of those things are to drive experience towards human life. So even if you don't have a family, when I feel the most successful is when I felt successful last week with my family on spring break, getting to spend a week with my kids in California and experience a new state with them that they had never really explored. Those things make me feel very successful. But those are all driven from the goals that I set every single year for myself from a business standpoint to achieve. That gives me and drives happiness. At the same time, I cannot be truly happy and feel successful if I don't hit my personal goals as well. And a lot of that comes back to making sure that I'm being present and with my family and having new experiences with them every single year and as often as possible.
Good answer. Good answer. All right, Jimmy, what about you? How are you defining success?
I'm going to go with Larry Yatch as well. It's a phenomenal book. If people are looking for another book, How Leadership Actually Works. But in the book, Larry defines success as optimized daily success, sustainable over time. So a lot of people think they'd be happy if they were just rich and could sit on the beach all day and quite frankly, and then, 3 margaritas every day, probably not sustainable over time. Then you take the other pendulum of that, just work all day long, never see your family, not sustainable over time. So it's about finding that balance and then getting a daily routine, getting something daily, weekly that makes you happy, helps you have fun, and challenges you.
Very good. Very good. All right, RJ, what about you, boss?
So I just got to spend the last weekend in San Antonio at a real estate entrepreneur event, and I got to meet one of our students there, Dante from San Diego. His level of success is he does a couple deals a month, and the rest of the time he spends surfing and snowboarding and whatever he wants. I got to hang out with Ryan Pineda. He's starting a new business every 35 minutes and is constantly trying to push the limits and gain millions of followers on every different platform. And then you've got Jerry Norton. His level of happiness and success is how many kids can he have? Right now, I think he's at 73. You know, I mean, so everyone has a different level of what they consider successful. I think it's going back to some of what the other people said. Whatever makes you happy, whatever your personal goals are, as long as you're achieving that for yourself, that's success, not what other people are judging you by, not how many deals you do, not what revenue you're making, but are you internally happy with where you are on your journey?